Massacre. 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 Don't you love it? Yeah.
Welcome. That's right. The Big Beat is back. It's Massacre Radio on your radio dials, the HD2 tuners to be exact. I, of course, am your host, Membersonly Dave, on this, the 41st episode. Yeah, we took the Memorial Day weekend off as an opportunity to relax a bit, put our toes in the sand, catch some waves, but we are back and doing it live, doing it bigger and better than ever. As later on in the show, I'll be joined by my guest, Cemetery Rapist. You know, this whole time it turns out he's not opposed to doing interviews, but rather people are afraid to have him on their shows for one reason or another. We're going to get to the bottom of that and a whole lot more coming up after this brief timeout. Hey, if you change the station now, you're playing yourself. Yeah!
This is Massacre Radio.
Here at Massacre Radio, you're not going to hear any of that mundane crosstalk from 20 and 30-somethings you don't even know who couldn't care any less about you, the listener. Because, you see, that's where we're different. We actually put the listener first, with our data research team working tirelessly day and night, all to unearth topics and find guests that you, the listener, actually care about. You see, we're not a podcast, we're a lifestyle, and the difference will become clear once you turn us on. Massacre Radio, the industry leader in broadcast excellence. Welcome. Massacre Radio. Welcome back. You're listening to Massacre Radio on WKMA Cleveland, voted the best HD2 station for a record 2 consecutive years now, it says here. So that's nice, and it looks like my guest is calling in now, which is also nice. Let me go ahead and patch them in. There we go. Hey, joining me now on the Massacre Radio hotline, a very special guest doing a rare interview, as I'm joined now by Clay Lemanski, better known as the artist Cemetery Rapist. Clay, thanks again for your time today, man. How's everything going for you?
I'm good, man. How's it going?
Good. Very well, in fact. As you know, we've been trying to get you on this radio program for a few weeks now, but one of the things that was preventing you from coming on is you actually had some tornadoes rip through your area recently, Clay. Was that the first time you had ever dealt with tornadoes or natural disasters? Because I know at least here in the more rural parts of Ohio where I'm from, we do that thing where we stand on our front porch, or our front yard in our bare feet and watch the clouds swirl in,
Yeah. So down here, I stay in Northwest Arkansas currently. We're just on the east side of Tornado Alley. Every couple of years or so, a tornado will come through around the area, tear something up. So 2 years ago, I actually had a small EF2 miss my house. It went over my house. I got half a new roof on there. It's kind of funny to see, but did some damage around me. And then, just over Memorial Day weekend, it's National Weather Service just labeled it an EF3. They say it's the widest tornado ever hit Arkansas.
Wow.
Just tore up some stuff around me. They just got power back on this morning and got some of the roads open this morning. So it's been a long road for sure.
Wow. So did it rise to the level of you having to seek shelter or no?
No, not for me. I'm like a weather spotter, storm tracker as a hobbyist. I'm nowhere near a professional, but I've got, fancy radars and stupid stuff on my computer and stuff. So I tend to be a nerd, watch these supercells come in, go around me. So I knew it was going to be a little north of me, but I knew there were going to be some problems. So we actually had a few fatalities from the storms and stuff like that. So, it's just one of those things that happens when you're in Tornado Alley.
Well, I'm glad you're okay, and my thoughts and prayers are with those who had extensive property damage. Okay, so real quick for the folks who might not be familiar with Cemetery Rapist and what you do, just briefly describe what it is. My notes here say the genre is experimental avant-garde porno grind. Would you say that about covers it, Clay?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know about avant-garde. I mean, it seems like just porno grind to me. It's grind. It's porno grind. It's that for sure.
Anyway, Clay, you aren't known for doing many interviews and putting yourself out there like that, so why is that, though? I mean, you clearly have a very dedicated fan base, The interest is there, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm happy to do interviews. I think more often than not, it's people that are scared to talk to me. I've been around I'll celebrate my 20th year at Cemetery Rapist this July, and back when I started this band, it wasn't provocative. I wasn't provocative. I was just another dude, but as time goes on and, our society changes and stuff like that, people have become a little more conservative in the death metal world. Mm-hmm. And so I think more often than not, it's not it's, you know, I'm willing to talk. I think it's people not willing to talk to me.
So you're an OG with the whole music porno grind thing, as your career dates back to the MySpace days, back when fools were still using dial-up to access the internet, and, you know, MySpace had top 8. By all accounts, that was 20 years ago. So the question here is, how has your approach to making music changed over the years between getting your start in the MySpace era and onto now as you approach your 20th year? So
I wouldn't recommend people follow my approach too much, but my approach is to not change at all. So I'm not going to change with the times. I'm not going to soften up my song titles. I'm not going to, you know, play less blast beats. I'm not going to do any of that stuff, man. Like, I think real art and where it comes from and why people, produce it and stuff like that, if you do it for a real reason, it comes from a real place. It's, you know, not really something you turn off, especially in regards to what we do. I think if I was maybe like a country musician or a pop artist, something different, you know, I'd have a different answer. But I'm a porno grind band and I make porno grind. People don't like it. That's not my problem. So I'm not going to change. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. If people don't want to get on board with that, that's okay. If new people want to get on board, that's okay. But that's how it's going to go.
You'll have to excuse my ignorance on this one, Clay, but has the genre always been known as porno grind even when you first started out? Or was it something else that then turned into what is now porno grind?
Honestly, man, I think I'm the last guy that still uses the porno grind heading. I know a lot of guys kind of got rid of that. You know, and like I said, in the last couple of years, that term has become a little taboo amongst the bands. And I think now everybody calls themselves gore grind and, you know, write songs with medical terms instead of, you know, what I do, which is clearly porno grind, which is, you know, writing fucking songs about pussy and shit. So I think years ago, the porno grind scene was a lot more prevalent. You had bands like Gut and Cock and Ball Torture and stuff like that were around. And that's sort of the vein of where I come from. And I haven't seen anything like that in regards to porno grind, at least in regards to bands making decent music in a lot of years.
Do you feel like within the genre of porno grind, since, you know, you've been doing it since 2004, do you feel like you are or were a catalyst for the evolution of the genre? Do you see yourself in that way or feel any of that influence that you may have?
Oh, man. That's a good question. So I'll be honest. The way that I feel, I'll always sort of feel like the underdog sort of situation. You know, I always feel like I've got something to prove and that I'm going to prove it. In recent years, people have referred to me as sort of an influential act. And that's something I'm still getting used to. You know, I mean, I've been around for 20 years, but I'm only 37 years old. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I still have, you know, the last remnants of young man tendencies in me and stuff like that. So, but I am trying to kind of accept that title and move into that space. You know, I had a young man tell me, you know, I was gone for a couple of years. I took 5 years off there around 2017 for various reasons. And I had a young man tell me that the scene needs its OGs. I took that responsibility seriously. And now I hope moving forward that, you know, I'm more actively aware that I can have some sort of influence on the next generation. And I'm trying to do what I can to use that influence for good, man. Get guys making some brutal music for sure.
So I'm just leafing through this prep sheet the producers of this radio show put together for me, and there's an interesting bullet point. It says here that growing up you weren't influenced by metal music, nor did you listen to it, and rather you listened to everything from R&B to Mariah Carey. So, in a general sense, when you first decided, Clay, that you were going to make music, what was the one thing that you wanted to do differently from everybody else?
I wanted to make songs about things that were real and things that were brutally real. And I didn't want to sugarcoat them. I feel like when I came out, a lot of music was, it was cool to be cryptic. I never thought that. I didn't think it was cool to be cryptic. I thought if we were going to talk about certain things, you should just talk about them. Yeah, I don't know. That's it. I mean, I just wanted to be as absolutely straightforward as possible. I had no idea what kind of musical evolution I would have. I didn't know how long I would be around. I mean, when I started playing music, I wasn't any good at it. I was peer pressured into playing music. I was a little skateboard rat, and all my friends, kind of got me into it. And over the years, they all fell out of it. And I didn't grow up listening to metal. I still don't listen to a lot of metal. I don't know a lot of metal. I annoy a lot of metalheads with that because I play metal. I just wanted to portray brutality, some real dark parts of society, and I didn't want to be cryptic about it. I wanted to put it in people's face, and that's what they get.
Clay Lemanski is my guest today, also known as the artist Cemetery Rapist. He's very popular on the porno grind scene. I have a note here, Clay. It says you claim no vocal processing or effects are used in Cemetery Rapist music. Why do you feel it's necessary to go out of your way to point that out? What's so bad about using vocal processing or effects anyway?
Well, I love vocal effects. I love bands that use vocal effects. I think all my favorite bands, if I had to name like my top 5, I bet 4 of them use vocal effects. The reason I put it out there is because back in 2004, I started doing my cricket style vocals, in around 05. And when I started doing those, nobody was doing it. There was just nobody was doing anything that sounded like that. There were a few guys here and there that were using them as sort of accent parts in songs, but nobody was doing it as their full vocal tone. And so in the early years, I had a lot of people that just, went out of their way to say that I was using vocal effects to do that stuff. So in the early years, I had to put it out there. Hey, man, I'm not using vocal effects. This is really what I sound like. And, of course, as the years go on and death metal vocals progress, there's a lot of dudes that do the cricket vocals, a lot of dudes that are really good at it and stuff. And now people are kind of used to hearing it. But yeah, it was just one of those signs of the times, man. People thought I was faking it.
Oh, I see. So when you first started, you weren't doing the cricket vocals then, huh?
No, when I started out, I was doing traditional death metal vocals. I was young and just, trying to get in there. I had a friend that was very influential in introducing me to grind and showing me what that was all about. He also introduced me to drugs. Mm-hmm. And so I had my first LSD experience with him, and I accidentally learned how to make that noise in his bathroom of his 1-bedroom apartment, and when I came out of the bathroom, he asked me what that noise was, and I was like, I don't really know. And he's like, you should use that for your vocals, and that was that.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Your current vocal style was influenced by an acid trip. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I have no idea. I was so green, man. I didn't know anything about vocal tones. I didn't know anything about how I wanted my vocals to sound. All I knew was that I was having trouble with the traditional kind of death metal style. I didn't like doing it. I didn't have what I thought was a decent enough volume doing it. And it's just how I felt. So I don't know, man. It's purely accident. I mean, total accident. So what can you say?
All right, let me go ahead and make a note of that here. Okay. I want to get back to something you had mentioned earlier, because back in around 2004, when you were just starting out, Cemetery Rapist as a name wasn't controversial. Around what time or year did it become controversial, though? Because I know you've said before that your intent with the name Cemetery Rapist was to just be brutal and not be controversial. But I mean, even back in 2004, even if the climate was different back then, you had to know that some people would take offense to a name like that, right?
I'll be honest with you, this is where things get interesting. So this is where I talk about being green and not listening to metal. So, I got introduced to metal from my friends. Like I said, I was a skateboard rat. I made these friends at school that skateboarded. They also played in metal bands. They were very into, the whole Korn and Slipknot, very of the times. So I wanted to skate. They wanted to play music. I got peer pressured into that. Mm-hmm. So I ended up playing drums. So I was a drummer. I'm not actually a guitarist. I still say that after 20 years that I'm not really a guitarist. I'm actually a drummer. And so I started playing drums. I bought a drum kit and took up for that. And as I start, that was when I was 15, and I spent the next 3 years, just kind of playing in little metal bands with these guys. But through the time, I would meet a guy here that listened to something a little heavier, and eventually, I saw a one-man band, and I thought, man, I'm going to do that. And so I literally thought that, again, through all that, I literally thought that the point of death metal, that the point of grind was to be brutal. I just thought that was the point, man. I didn't know that there was nuance to it. I thought that the point of making brutal music was to be the most brutal. And, I didn't play guitar. I was teaching myself to play guitar, and I had never touched a drum machine. And so I was teaching myself how to do that. And I knew that I wasn't going to be anywhere near the best at those things. And I'm, in my opinion, a pretty mediocre guitarist and such. And I thought that I would, make up for that guitar ability or lack thereof by making my music as brutal as I could. And that's how I found slam. That's why I started making slam riffs and stuff like that. And that's why all my song titles were over the top. I was trying to be brutal in a brutal world.
And nobody gave you any resistance on the whole Cemetery Rapist thing, is what you're saying, though.
I didn't get any pushback on that for over a decade. For 10 plus years, I booked shows and played shows like any other. Nobody batted an eye. Nobody said anything. Nobody pulled me aside. I've never hurt anybody. I've never tried to hurt anybody. I've never abused anybody. I just make brutal music. And I'll tell you, I was just a band all the way up until, and I hate to say this because I'm not a political band. That's not who I am. That's not what Cemetery Rapist is. But when Donald Trump made his way into the media as a presidential candidate, things changed. The society changed.
Well, you're saying that society has changed. So do you recall a specific moment for you when you first came to that conclusion that things have in fact changed?
I can pinpoint the moment. I had a show in LA that was shut down. I played 3 shows in Mexico, and my 4th was in LA before I flew home. Mm-hmm. And they shut that show down, and they told me that it was political. And I thought, well, I'm porno grind. I'm the Cemetery Rapist. I don't know what does that have to do with anything? And they told me specifically it's a problem with Donald Trump and the county that the show was supposed to be in was like a highly Republican county.
Oh, so they actually said this to you as to why you weren't playing?
Yes, yeah. This was told to me point blank. They said it was a Republican county, and they thought that our show, which featured a couple bands from Mexico, they thought it was like too, politically charged. And that was the first I heard about it. I did a tour after that, and it was supposed to be my first run out on the East Coast. I had people send death threats to the promoters, and it was funny. I got my show shut down in LA because it was a Republican county, and then out on the East Coast, I got my show shut down because they said it was a Democrat county, and they thought I was some sort of weird Republican, or so I don't know. I don't even know what it was at the time. A Tea Party thing, something. I don't even remember. And
right.
And so yeah. In 2017, when everything became politicized, I just got. I just had shows getting shut down from both sides for for political reasons, and it was just so funny because the entire time I was just like, man, I'm a porno grind band. None of this has anything to do with me, and I didn't change a thing. Just everything changed around me.
Well, that kind of leads me into my next question here, Clay, because I want to know, do you ever see a day where you move away and distance yourself from the name Cemetery Rapist? I mean, you seem like you really enjoy performing, so at what point do you swallow your pride, so to speak, and move away from the name for the love of performing in front of audiences and putting yourself out there more?
Yeah, it's completely out of the question. I like performing in front of crowds, man, and I want to perform, and I like, I've always said, like, I'm a man of the people, man. Like, my favorite part of all this, sitting in the studio, record music, it's fine. It's all fine. But, I want to be out there with the people, and I love playing shows, and I love hanging out, and you'll never catch me like backstage or something. I'm always at my merch table or at the bar. I'm always hanging out. At this point, I think of that young man that hit me up and said, the scene needs its OGs. And I think it would be irresponsible of me to change what I've been doing for 20 years because of pressure around me. I feel like it would be, I don't feel like it would be giving the right message to the next generation, you know, I'm not a bad guy. And there's plenty of people out there playing shows, playing tours, big tours, have booking managers, have agents, have record labels that are bad people. They are convicted for abusing people and hurting people. I'm not one of those guys. I've never done that. I don't do that. You know, I'm a totally normal dude. And if I stop what I'm doing, all because of pressure over my song titles, which nobody's asked me what those songs are about, they just get angry. You know, or my band name, hey man, that's their problem. But I'm going to let people know that if you feel a certain way about something and you feel like portraying your art in a certain way and you're not a piece of shit, you're an actual stand-up motherfucker, you can do whatever you want, man. So I'm not changing a thing.
You're listening to Massacre Radio, and we'll be back with more from my guest, Cemetery Rapist, after this brief timeout. Viene después, Massacre Radio. Amigos, rompiste con ella, y todavía quieres tener sexo. Te diría 10 secretos de fuego seguros. Eso manzanendara a spragas mojadas. Así es todos, ganan amigo. Aquí después del espectáculo. Solo en WKMA Cleveland, una estación HD2. WKMA Cleveland.
Whoa! This is Radioland, huh?
An HD2 station.
I know what you're thinking. This is weird, huh? But I can handle it.
We're back. You're listening to Massacre Radio on WKMA Cleveland and HD2 station. My guest today is Cemetery Rapist. You know him from his well-known songs, including Death by Ruru. How about that? So, before the break, I mentioned 2017, and I know around that same time you also took a step back from the music, Clay. You know, you stopped playing shows. Was this mostly as a result of the politically charged climate we were speaking about earlier by chance?
Partially. That was when I first started having trouble booking shows. When my first shows were getting shut down in 2017, a lot of it happened while I was out on the road. And I took some financial losses there that really hurt, man. But, you know, the real thing, and I haven't talked about this much, but the lady I was with at the time was diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we're not together anymore and stuff like that, which is secondary. It doesn't matter. It's her health that's important. And,
right.
And now that she's fine, I don't mind talking about it. But in 2019, I was also diagnosed with a salivary gland problem. It changed the way I did vocals a little bit. Not too big of a deal. It's so funny. The doctor actually told me that, like, it's about calcium deposits and stuff like that, and yada yada. He told me the way to fix it is by eating sour candy. But, you know, you got to do what you got to do.
Right. I'm not trying to bring the mood down or anything here, Clay, but I did want to ask you about the 2019 Dayton, Ohio shooting, and in particular, that kid that did the interview with Vice afterwards who dropped the name Porno Grind, immediately giving it a negative connotation, and then was used as a scapegoat for the violent acts. Just for a moment, talk about the damage that particular interview has done to the Porno Grind scene, and what steps in your mind can be taken to take some of that tarnish off and restore the integrity. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah, I got some thoughts on this. This is a good one. Okay, so even though my shows were getting shut down in 2017, I still had a presence online. When that stuff happened out in Dayton and that fucking moron sat down and did that interview with Vice, of all media outlets with Vice, what a fucking idiot. And, this is another thing that I've never put out in public. I'll do right now. I had pressure from Vice. I had people hit me up from Vice. I had a girl show up. I had a writer from Vice show up to one of my shows. This girl probably does not work for the company anymore, but I don't care. I'll disparage shit out of the company. She showed up, tried to hit on me, tried to get me to hit on her, see if she could get me wrapped up. And I don't do that. I don't hit on girls at shows. I don't, that's just not, it's a rule. It's a personal rule. I just don't. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't take to it. And so she couldn't write the smear piece on me. But it wasn't even about me. It was about Porno Grind. It was about this. Again, this is after the world is becoming politically charged. Everything is becoming politically charged, right? So keep that in mind. So that shooting happens. The kid does the interview with Vice. And I mean, within 48 hours of that interview being released, my entire online presence was gone. If you, in 2018, 2019, type the word Porno Grind into Google, one of the first responses you were going to get was Cemetery Rapist. You were going to get one of my pages, one of whatever, my SoundCloud, my Bandcamp, my merch, something. You were going to get something. But I love being a Porno Grind band. my favorite bands are porno grind bands. And I've thrown around that porno grind heading more than anybody. And I woke up to my entire online presence gone. And to this very day, I'm banned from Bandcamp for life. Okay. They flagged all my stuff. I've been going through it with Spotify. I think I'm going to be able to upload my new album to Spotify. I mean, it might be deleted. I don't know. Like, I'm going to give it a shot. Mm-hmm. That interview was the worst thing for underground grind, maybe ever, maybe of all time. And for that kid to get on there and do that, and I'm not going to say his name, for that kid to do that was ridiculous. That kid is a alcoholic and a piece of shit. He lives like an animal. And for him to go out there and use his horrible representation to put on the front a porno grind, it's just insane. As far as like, untarnishing the name or whatever, I mean, I don't care. I really don't. Like, it is what it is. Yeah, I could stand with having my shows shut down, but not be able to get my music to people who want to hear it to this day because of that kid's irresponsibility is just beyond irritating.
And just to kind of stem off that, Clay, I would never ask you to speak on behalf of anybody else, but why do you think people are always quick to blame music or the media in general whenever there's a tragedy like that? They'll do that before they ever take responsibility for their own horrific actions. I mean, what's it going to take for music and media to stop being punching bags for that sort of trauma?
Yeah, self-reflection is hard, man. And if you ask me, I don't even, what's funny is of all the troubles I've had and of all the troubles other bands have had, I don't even really blame these people, man. Like, a lot of people didn't come equipped, don't come equipped, their parents didn't equip them, whatever you want to say, emotional stability is difficult, man. And self-reflection is hard. And like, I think life has become very difficult in every small aspect, whether it be things being expensive or, anything, jobs not being available, whatever you want to say, that when people get to difficult cruxes in their own life, that blame is just so much simpler than reflection. And music and art of all forms, painting, photography, art of all forms is supposed to push boundaries, It's supposed to be a little provocative. It doesn't matter what it is. It's supposed to be a little provocative. And nobody looks back on book burning and looks at those pictures and says, the people throwing those books in those fire, they were right. They were right. Like, nobody does that.
Right.
And I think everybody should just think about that for a second before. I mean, and they won't, of course, but if you just think about that, like, do you really want to be the guy that goes down in history throwing the book? Like, the books were the problem. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it didn't have anything to do with World War II PTSD or anything, like, you know what I mean? It's the books. It's the book. It's just, hey man, like, dude, I get it. Life sucks, man.
It's like they always say, man, life's a garden. Dig it.
That's right.
Let's go ahead and shift gears and get back to the music here, Clay. You use a lot of 808s with your music. Have you ever considered branching out or doing more straightforward rap or anything like that? I feel like it would absolutely pound. Do you feel there are other ways you can maybe expand your sound at all?
It's funny that you say that. If you go to my website, www.onemanmenace.com, you'll find not only my music projects for Cemetery Rapist, but you'll find my other projects. I'm kind of a madman. I have 6 active one-man projects. Nobody do that, by the way. Please, nobody take after me here. This is ridiculous. And one of them is called Check a Bag, and Check a Bag is pretty interesting. I've had that project for a while, so it's hard to explain. If I explain it, I'm going to sound like an idiot, and no one's going to listen to it. But if you're interested in further, what me and this man are talking about here, check out Check a Bag. So
okay, Check a Bag. I'm going to go ahead and make a quick note of that as well. Writing that down. Check a bag. Well, speaking of different side projects, I have to ask you about this project of yours, 9 and 33 LA Reno Fountains of an Illustrious Forever, which was released in 2020. Now, the cover for this project is very distinctly inspired by vaporwave, very circa 2013 type aesthetic, and the music even reflects that too, which is my favorite part. Somehow you were able to blend the two genres together. Just talk a little bit about that transformation. I mean, how did that all go down?
Yeah, so I have a strictly vaporwave project, and in true vaporwave fashion, I have 4 finished albums, and I've released none of them.
Of course.
So that's, I'm trying to keep it real. But yeah, I found vaporwave on accident. I drive for my job. I spend just hours. I don't even know how many miles a week on the road. But so I just that phone will go on YouTube and just sort of play, and I stumbled on vaporwave, and I just was enamored. So I started making vaporwave, and then I just started goofing off, and the whole time that I was gone from music, I was still making music, of course, and that was just some of the stuff I was playing with, and I don't know, I never know what's gonna work, until I put it together and just see what it sounds like. And I really wanted it to be a little more technical with the guitar and stuff like that, be a little more techie of a project. And I don't know, man, it's become one of my favorite projects pretty quickly. It's difficult to write. It takes me forever, but all the releases will probably be low on the song count, but it's a lot of fun. I got almost another EP written. So
wait, did you say you have 4 finished yet unreleased albums? But why? Why not release them?
Yeah, I have to. I wanted to put this out. I've had some of this music done. I mean, clearly I've had it done for some years now. But if I don't put out this new Cemetery Rapist album first, it's been 11 years or something since I put out a CR album. And if I don't put it out, people are just going to absolutely kill me, man. I put out that 9 and 33 and people loved it. But the one thing I heard was hey, bro, when are you giving me that CR? So once this Cemetery Rapist comes out, it's going to be difficult for me to not just absolutely bombard the world with music, because I've got a couple other projects that are finished as well. And I've got a Check a Bag album that's almost done. I have a Fecalized Rectal Sperm Spewage EP that's getting there. And then I've got an Authentic Snuff album that's finished as well. And so, yeah, once I get that out, it'll all come out. But yeah, I've got 4 unfinished from Deep Silk Velvet. I've got 1 EP that's going to come out. It's almost done from 9 and 33.
Since we're on the topic, I'm going to go ahead and ask you, who or what are some of your favorite vaporwave artists or releases? Is there anything that really sticks out or inspired you with your own music?
Okay, so I always Blank Banshee. It's easy to love the classics.
Yes.
I'll always love the classics. Desert Sand Desert Sand is, God, man, the early vaporwave too, where it's really sample based, all the Pall Mall and stuff like that, all the mall soft stuff, groceries. I love how it's just so heavy sample based and stuff like that. The weird art and shit, man, it's so good, dude. Vaporwave is it's my feel good time for sure. I'll put that on when I need it.
Cemetery Rapist is my guest today on Massacre Radio. The forthcoming album is titled From My Puddled Phallic Drip. It's supposed to come out in June, which you had then pushed the due date back to life getting in the way, basically. What can your fans expect from your new album, though, Clay? What kind of vibe are we working with on this latest release?
I was going to put it out in May, and I pushed it back. Yeah, I had a moment where I wasn't super happy with some of the takes, and I don't know, but I just wasn't loving it, and I really wanted to be in love with every aspect of this album, and so I thought, well, I'll just wait. I mean, who gives a shit? Everybody waited 11 years. They can wait another month,
Right.
But I'm going to put it out here in a couple weeks, so I'll put it out before the end of June. This album really comes from a place of me, really wanting to prove something to people. I appreciate being called an OG, but I'm not just going to take that title because I've been around a long time. I intend on earning that. I intend on earning it the hard way, the long way, the way that you should. You guys are going to get a fucking banger, dude. If you want your music heavy, and heavy like it used to be, golden era grind shit. I got you covered, man. You just wait.
Where can the people find you at online if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, so again, like I'm banned from everything, you guys. I know you guys want my music on Bandcamp. I know you want it on Spotify. I want it there. I want to give it to you guys, and I'm working on it the best I can. But unfortunately, like I said, times are just a little charged, and I'm still not allowed on a lot of these platforms. So if you want to get a hold of me, I'm on Instagram at @1man_menace. I'm on Facebook under my name, Clay Lemanski, you know, the whole thing. I can't have a Cemetery Rapist Facebook. You know, I'm banned on Facebook. You know, so it's
so
difficult,
crazy.
man. It's difficult. I know it's difficult. I know that I ask a lot of my fans, you know, when it comes to, you know, staying up to date and stuff, but I'm very lucky to have a very dedicated fan base. I appreciate all those people. I hope that it's not too big of a deal to just hit up my Instagram or whatever and go from there. I've got all my links on my Instagram. I've got, you know, I'm on TikTok at One Man Menace, like wherever I can be, you know, and I promote my stuff like a absolute madman to the point of annoyance. So yeah, every time that I cross another hurdle, once I get my stuff on Spotify, once I, you know, get, you know, unbanned here and there and stuff, believe me, everybody will hear about it. You know, just go over there, follow me on the Facebook and the Instagram, man.
Let's see, I'm on awfulgoodnessrecords.bigcartel.com, where fans can purchase a Cemetery Rapist thong. Does that come in men's styles by any chance, Clay? I want to fashion that baby around Edgewater this summer, you know?
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure I shipped 4 or 5 of them things to some dudes, and I ain't here to judge nobody, man. Like, I'm here for the weirdos, you know? So they come in all sizes. Order away, you know?
Well, thanks again for your time today, man. My guest today has been Clay Lemanski, a.k.a. Cemetery Rapist. Hey, all the best to you and your upcoming album, man. I'll have to check that out. And if you ever make it up to Cleveland or whatever to do a show, I will be there. Count me in.
For sure, man. I try to play Ohio, you know, at least once a year. It's good people up there. I love Ohio. Best fans. I'll be through for sure.
All right, you take care now.
Hell yeah. Same to you, brother. Same to you.
Massacre Radio. Hey, special thanks to my guest, Cemetery Rapist, once again, who kicked down quite a few pearls of wisdom along the way for the Massacre Radio audience. Hey, don't forget to keep an eye out for his latest album release, From My Puddled Phallic Drip. We will be listening. And on that note, that about does it for this installment of Massacre Radio. Tune in next week. We've got a great A1 program lined up for you. So until then, I've been your host, Membersonly Dave, and I'll talk at you next week.
When I came out of the bathroom, he asked me what that noise was, and I make porno grind.